Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. And if you're here with me for the first time, my name is Melissa Reed and I'm a mixed media artist from Pennsylvania. All right, so today we're going to do something that I saw and got inspired by on another artist's Instagram, actually. I don't know, I'm sure some of you at least are familiar with Leanne D'Aquino art. I believe she has a YouTube, but she definitely has an Instagram, and I follow her on there. And I'm going to put links in the description for you. If you do not know her work, please check her out. She is awesome. So she did a video last week where I saw her printing on corrugated cardboard on the Gelli Plate. And I'm not exactly sure what she did with hers because I did not see anything beyond that. But the second I saw it, I got this idea. So this is actually going to be a two-parter. First of all, because I thought the video was going to be too long if I did it all in one. And secondly, with the holidays and everything else going on, there just wasn't quite enough time. And I didn't want to rush through it and just throw it together because I think it could end up being really cool. So I'm not going to give away the surprise of what the final project is going to be. It is going to be a little more on the crafty side than the arty side, but that's okay to do once in a while. I think it's important to have as much fun as possible with this. And I mean, who among us doesn't have all of these scrap boxes laying around, either after the holidays or just because you've got things that you've ordered and we end up, using them for whatever, recycling them. But what if we can make something really cool out of them? So that's what we're going to do. So for the part one of this video, I am going to be doing some just jelly printing on these. And then next week, I will show you what we're going to make. I have a couple of different ideas, but one main idea. The second I saw Leanne D'Aquino's video, this just popped into my head and I thought, oh, this is going to be so cool. So I hope it works out. I haven't tried it yet. We're going to do it together on camera. I don't see why it wouldn't, but let's get started. Okay, so I have my 8x10 Gelli Plate out here, and I am going to just be using various different colors, and I'm going to be using a lot of the same techniques that you've seen me use in the past. The first thing that I'm doing here is using a little bit of the Liquitex black because I love the way the black picks up all of the designs in the lace, which is what I'm printing on there. So I found all of these lace bits at a Goodwill one day, and I went in there specifically looking for lace and was fortunate enough to find it because you know how those places can be. Sometimes you get what you're looking for and sometimes you do not. But I found these really pretty pieces of lace. I did a whole video on lace printing. Actually, it was on printing fabrics in general, and I can link that up at the end for you if you're interested in watching it. But I just laid down the black to pick up the pattern there, and I'm going to let everything dry really well and so that I can pick up the pattern that I just made with another color. And I am using a pale pink color here to pick that up because I thought what might work best on the cardboard, since it has a natural dark color to it, would be a more opaque kind of lighter color so that the background texture and details show up. And it did work out very well for me. So I've got my little pre-cut pieces of cardboard there. And again, this is just some Amazon boxes that I had laying around from the holidays, and I'm doing some various sizes and shapes. I have an idea for the project, but I haven't worked it all out yet, so I want to be able to have a variety to pick from in my shapes and sizes. I used a piece of pickup paper there just to kind of pull up any extra paint that I could off of the plate. It's a little more difficult to do with the cardboard because it's a lot thicker. And I should say this, make sure you let this dry very, very well. Look at the detail that I got from that lace though. Isn't that pretty? But you do want to let this dry a little bit longer than you would from, say, like a rice paper or a thinner type of paper, because since it is so thick, it isn't going to immediately dry like a lot of the other ones do. I probably let each of these sit, I don't know, probably a good 20 minutes between pulls, and I typically do not wait that long at all. But it's a good idea. Okay, for this next one, I'm using a little bit of Liquitex Fluorescent Red, I believe that was, and I am using a multi-sided stamper to put a little bit of texture in there. It is like a vine or floral motif on there, and once I gave that time to dry, I actually just went in with titanium white and used that as a pickup layer. I didn't have quite enough on there the first time, so I wanted to have just a little bit extra. I didn't bother covering the whole entire plate this time because I was just going to use a smaller piece. And once I let that have an adequate amount of time to dry, I'm pulling that off, and you can see there I turned the plate upside down because sometimes with these thicker cardboard sheets, it's a lot easier to actually remove the plate from the cardboard. And you can see the design that I got there. For this next one, I'm going back in with a little bit more of the Liquitex black. I believe that's Mars Black. It's the one that I always use. It gives a nice coverage, and I think it's just a good dark shade. It picks up all of the detail that I like. And for this next one, I am using another kind of stamp that I bought. I got these in a set, and this will all be linked in the description. Anything that I purchased that I'm using today will be linked in the description of my video if you are interested. So I am just laying that down on top, and I had a little bit too much paint down there to start with, but once I let that black start drying a little bit, I went back in and stamped over it again, and it's pulling up perfectly exactly how I wanted it. Now, this is just a like an abstract text stamp, so it's not meant to be read or meant to really say anything. It's just the look of words, which I really like. And over top of that, I'm going in with a pale violet color there, also from Liquitex. I really like that color a lot, and I thought it would work nicely with the black. So again, I'm going in there with my cardboard and pressing it down. I'm trying to press down pretty firmly on this because there is the corrugation to consider in that, and it's really easy for it to not pick up the whole way across. And you can see here, I'm going to show you where I was just pressing with my thumb. There's a line right there on the bottom third that didn't print, and that has happened on a lot of these. You'll be able to see. I don't necessarily mind because I'm not looking for perfection in these, but it's something to keep in mind if you are looking for more of a clear print. Kind of hard to get with this technique using the cardboard. Okay, I'm going in with that same color because I thought I might want to have similar color combinations to use with my project here, and I'm going in with the little floral stamper that I made in one of my previous videos. I can link that for you in the end as well if you're interested in seeing how I made some homemade stamps. And picking that one up with black. So I'm basically just doing the opposite of what I did in the last one. That one I printed in black and picked up with the violet. This time I'm printing with the purple and picking up with the black. So I'm just putting two of the thin strips on there, and you will see how the little flowers turned out there. This was before I realized that I needed to let them sit a little longer, so some of these didn't print as clearly as I wanted. That one kind of turned out okay, but the one next to it could have sat a little bit longer. And I also started really laying some weight on the pieces to try to mitigate the problem that I was having with some of the blank spots, and that did help some too. It didn't help entirely, but it does make it better, so just keep that in mind as well. Okay, for this next one, I am using, that is a Winsor & Newton Winsor Blue, which is just a beautiful blue color. I really like it. It has like a little bit of a green tone to it, so not quite pure blue, but I really love it, and it can be a little on the transparent side, which I like as well. But I'm using another piece of lace with that, and I'm just going to use this same pickup sheet through the whole thing because that's not anything that I'm planning on using. It's just going to be a piece of trash in the end, most likely, unless there are some cool designs on it, because you never know. You know how it is when you're printing on the gel plate and suddenly even the trash starts to look interesting, and that could actually be a fun project to do someday too, is making a collage out of things that were actually meant to just be thrown away. I'll have to remember that, and maybe we can do a video on that at some point in the future. But I went in with, I believe that is bright green, pale bright green. I can't remember the exact color, I'm sorry, but it's something like that. It looks a little more chartreusey in life than it does on the video, but I thought it would work really nicely with the blue, and it does. But you can see here, I really got those lines in there, and It's not troubling to me because I know what I'm going to do with this and I can definitely work around that. But again, keep it in mind if you're going to print on the cardboard because there are larger indentations in certain places and they will show up in your prints because, as you know, the Gelli Plate is not very forgiving when you've got any sort of texture or anything. It is most certainly going to show up. Okay, so here I'm going down with a little bit of the titanium white. Okay, and I am using a texture roller that I made. I can't remember if I put that in a video or not. It's just pieces of adhesive foam, and I didn't like the way it turned out. I actually smudged it a little bit, so I re-rolled the white over that, and then I am just going over it with the roller. I did it once, and then I thought, okay, well, it might look interesting if I went over that again, and I liked the way that the pattern was overlapping. So I went in for a third time and I got even more definition and fine details in there, and I really liked the way that looked. So I waited until that dried. Instantly, it does not dry instantly. As you all know, I have edited some of the drying time out because who wants to watch paint dry? I know I don't, and I figure you probably don't either. So I don't know, maybe for those of you new to jelly printing, I would say, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes, maybe not even. And you can cheat that along a little bit with a hair dryer on a cool setting if you want. Just be careful not to leave it on too long because you can damage the plate. So I rolled black on top of that to pick up, and you can see those swirl designs really picked up nicely in there. And I don't know if I love this one, but it's interesting and I might be able to use it. I may or may not be using all of these. I'm not 100% sure. We'll just have to see what happens in the next video. And you know how I am. I'm kind of like a fly by the seat of my pants artist. Some people call that intuitive art. Um, so I never really know what's going to happen until I set out to do it. So with this print, I laid down some metallic copper, and that was an Artist's Loft brand. Unfortunately, I believe that particular one is no longer being made, but it's a really pretty copper color. Lots of other companies make them too. And this is a stencil that I had ordered um, from a set, and I don't know that did I use a stencil already? I don't think so. If I did already say this, I'm sorry, but I will have a link to those in the description as well. I may have done that already. But I am picking up the extra there with my pickup sheet. This is going to be a very faint design because that metallic doesn't really show up all that well, um, especially with the color that I chose. This is kind of like a bubblegum pink color, which I don't love and don't use it very often, but I thought it would work nicely with the copper color there. And it does. I really like the way that it looks together. It's just very subtle, and you kind of have to really tilt it and let the light hit it to see the design, which I will show you here in just a moment. See how subtle that is? It's really pretty. It reminds me of like an antique wallpaper or something, but very, very subtle unless you're right up on top of it, which I don't mind because not everything has to be right in your face, even though I tend to like the bolder things. It's sometimes nice to do a little more of a subtle approach. Okay, so this is another stencil from that same pack that I got. I wish they were a little bit bigger. That's really my only issue with them. I like the designs. I think there were 8 different designs. A few of them I don't really care for and haven't used, but there are a lot of really great ones in there. So check those out. I have those in my description. I like the way this one turns out, and this is also the paint that I'm using right now is another Artist Loft color, again from a discontinued lot. I went into Michael's one day and there were all of these like super cheap acrylic paint tubes in the clearance section, so I bought them all, of course, because you know how it is. But the sad part about buying clearance things is if you love them, then you don't, get to buy them again, and you have to like then go out and find something similar. But I like this particular one because it's very, very opaque. It has a lot of saturation of color and it works really beautifully on the gel plate. So I'm just kind of lining up loosely there. It doesn't need to be perfect, but because the stencil is smaller than the plate and I kind of wanted to get the continuity of design to line up at least a little bit there, that's why I went ahead and did that. And I am applying that with a sponge brush because I tried rolling it on with the brayer and it didn't really work. Um, and I thought a brush was going to be too messy and it might actually end up going up underneath the little fine pieces of the stencil. So the sponge brush there worked perfectly for that. And once I let that all get dried, I'm going in with Grumbacher Red, which, if you have listened to my videos, I have sung Grumbacher Red's praises from the hills. I love that color so much. It's a beautifully saturated red color. And I thought it would be an interesting choice to use in conjunction with that turquoise, and it really was. They're both very bold colors and they work really well next to each other. And after allowing that to dry, I went ahead and peeled the plate off of it, and you can see what I mean there. The saturation of colors on both of those is just really cool. I love the way that looks. It has that like chevron kind of shape to it, and the colors are just really neat. Very, very happy with the way these turned out. So this is the last one that I did for this particular project. I could have gone on for hours and hours making prints all night. You know how it is when you get started with a gel printing session. You just keep getting more ideas, or you a new color combination, or oh, I wonder what that texture would look like. But I had to stop somewhere because I didn't want the video to get too long. So I will be back with you next week, and we will be putting these all together in a project. So I really hope that you enjoyed making these as much as I did, and I hope to see you back here next week for part 2 of this video, and I'll show you what I'm going to do. Thank you all for stopping by, and if you liked what you saw, give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't had a chance yet, go ahead and subscribe. It really helps out the channel a lot, and I will see you soon. Have a great day, and Happy New Year to you all.